I'll never forget that morning. The sun was spilling through the big front windows like honey, washing everything in that warm, golden kind of light you only get when the day is just waking up. Our place looked picture-perfect. The pale blue walls, which Megan had insisted gave off a coastal vibe, glowed softly as a breeze toyed with the linen curtains. Somewhere in the kitchen, I heard the low hum of the espresso machine starting up. It was supposed to be the beginning of something peaceful. A break. A reset. A full week on the Oregon coast, just the three of us, Megan, me, and our teenage son, Ethan. No work, no meetings, no damn emails. Just books, sand, and the sound of the ocean breathing. I zipped the last suitcase shut and paused for a second, wiping a bit of sweat from the back of my neck. I actually smiled. Everything felt ready. Or so I thought. From down the hall, I could hear Ethan mumbling, probably wrestling with the idea of cramming his Xbox into his carry-on again. Megan's voice floated in from the kitchen, along with the scent of cinnamon. She was cheerful, casual. "We're out of almond milk," she called. "I'll run to the store in a bit." Back in our bedroom, I crouched down by the dresser to double-check the drawer where we kept all our travel stuff, passports, boarding passes, that sort of thing. I reached for the folder where it always was, but it wasn't there. Instead, tucked beneath a stack of scarves and some old utility bills, I found something I didn't recognize. A dark red leather pouch. Beat up but still firm in my hand. Not mine. Definitely not hers. My stomach did this weird drop as I unzipped it. Inside was a passport. Looked normal at first, navy blue, gold seal, United States of America printed across the front. But when I opened it, my world stopped spinning. The photo staring back at me was unmistakably Megan. Same wavy brown hair, same quiet, sharp eyes, even that little freckle just beneath her bottom lip. But the name wasn't Megan Thomas. It said, Catherine Elise Carter. And under marital status, married. Spouse, David Carter. I could feel my pulse in my throat, pounding like I'd just been gut-punched. My brain scrambled for some kind of explanation, a prank, a mix-up, some wild coincidence. But the paper in my hands was all too real. I'd seen plenty of passports in my life. I knew what they felt like. This wasn't fake. I just stood there holding it, trying to breathe. Downstairs, I heard her laugh. Light, effortless. Something inside me snapped. I walked down the hallway like I wasn't even in my own body, like I was watching myself move from somewhere far away. In the kitchen, she was setting 2 mugs of coffee on the table. Her back was to me. I didn't say anything, just held up the passport. She turned, her eyes flicked from the passport to my face, and then, nothing. No panic. No gasp. Not even surprise. She looked at me and smiled, just slightly. Like this was all part of some conversation we were always going to have, just not today. "I always figured you'd find it eventually," she said. Calm. So calm. She took a slow sip of her coffee and walked right past me, like I'd held up a grocery receipt and not a live grenade. I couldn't move. Her words echoed in my head. But not today. I went back upstairs and sat on the edge of the bed, holding that passport like it was cursed. I didn't ask her a single thing. And she didn't offer up a single word. It was like nothing had happened. She watered the plants. She texted someone, fingers flying over the screen with that same weird grace she used to frost cupcakes or fix her designs. She even reminded Ethan to bring a jacket for the beach, like the world hadn't just split open. Megan, or Catherine, whatever her name really was, had spent years under the same roof with me, loving me, raising a child with me, lying straight through her teeth. And I didn't see a damn thing. I always thought I was the observant one. I made a living out of noticing patterns, spotting tiny errors in financial data that other people missed. I thought that made me a good husband too. Turns out, I was blind. Shaking, I got up and walked over to her office. She worked from home, graphic design, mostly boutique branding. Her space looked like a page out of some lifestyle blog. Clean, stylish, clutter-free. Her laptop sat closed but still warm, humming softly in sleep mode. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I opened it. A password prompt popped up. I couldn't help but smirk. Megan thought she was careful, But years ago, when Ethan had pneumonia and we were scrambling to juggle work, we'd shared everything, including passwords. I typed in our wedding anniversary. It worked. The desktop popped up, simple, tidy. A few folders. A browser window left open. I clicked the tab. Her email was up. The top message was from someone named Edward Carter. Subject line, Final Steps. I felt my throat go dry. I opened it. Everything's in place. We're close. Just get him to sign that last form. Once it's done, we disappear. Transfers already set. This time next week, it's Justice. Sent 2 days ago. My hands went cold. My breath felt shallow. I couldn't look away from the screen. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a blueprint. A plan. A methodical, step-by-step takedown of my life. I clicked open another folder labeled Sunstone. Weird name. I opened it anyway. Inside were scans, our mortgage, joint accounts, insurance stuff, and one file named por_m.pdf. Durable power of attorney. I opened it. My name was on it. My signature. Only, I never signed that. The signature was nearly perfect, smooth, clean, like someone had practiced it 100 times. My stomach flipped. She wasn't just lying. She was stealing from me. Quietly. Legally. And if I hadn't found it, God, it would have been too late. If I had signed that document, if I'd just scribbled my name like she expected, Megan or Catherine, or whatever the hell her real name is, would have had access to everything. Every account I'd ever opened. Our retirement savings. Even the money we'd set aside for Ethan's college tuition. And that line in the email haunted me, this time next week, it's Justice. Justice. That was her word for it. I shut the laptop slowly, like it might explode. No rage. No shouting. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, staring at nothing. Down the hallway, I heard her humming. Some off-key tune, soft and wandering, while she folded towels. She had no idea the mask had finally slipped. I walked to the bathroom and gripped the sink so hard my knuckles turned pale. I stared at myself in the mirror. I didn't see fear. I saw focus. She thought I'd panic. She thought I'd be predictable, freeze up, fall into her setup like a clueless idiot. But I wasn't that man. Not anymore. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the passport again. Her face, same as always. But now it had a different name. Different life. Different man. I tucked it back into the red pouch and locked it inside my desk drawer under some boring tax files. Turned the key and slid it into my pocket. Just then, she called out from the other room, cheerful, sing-songy. "Don't forget to pack the sunscreen." And I smiled. But this time it was real. Not because I was okay, but because I finally understood the rules of the game we were playing. That night, the house was wrapped in this weird, heavy quiet. It was too still. The kind of quiet that makes your skin prickle. Outside, the street looked like every other night in suburbia. Dark sky, porch lights glowing like lazy fireflies, a breeze pushing wind chimes around. Normal. Inside, I sat alone in the dark, in my office. No lamps. Just the faint blue glow from my monitor lighting up the walls. My bookshelves stood there like witnesses. I had my cursor hovering over an email thread that made me feel sick. It had taken me all evening to find it. After that first message from Edward, I started digging through archived folders, encrypted backups, even random old cloud accounts she'd forgotten were still linked. And that's where I found it, a secret folder full of encoded messages. Just blocks of jumbled numbers and nonsense. But she'd underestimated me. I used to work in risk analysis. I see patterns where other people see static. So I ran one of the messages through a decryption tool I still had from years ago. The mess untangled into something awful. Subject line, progress. The message, he's easy. Doesn't ask questions. Total passive personality. He'll sign anything if I word it right. Almost finished with the account transfers. Just need to confirm on my end, then we're gone. She was talking about me. Like I was some weak little side character she could play around like a puppet. This was the same woman who held my hand in the hospital room when Ethan was born. The one who brought me black coffee every morning because she knew I hated cream. The woman who used to run her fingers through my hair when I couldn't sleep. And now she was writing about me like I was just a box to check off. I leaned back in my chair and felt 1,000 puzzle pieces clicking into place. Things I'd ignored started making a kind of awful sense. How she'd been pushing me to stop managing the bills, less stress, she said. How she laughed a little too loud when I once joked that I was so dull I could vanish and nobody would notice. It had started long before I realized. A quiet erosion of trust. A soft, steady theft of my life. A knock broke my thoughts. Like, hesitant. I minimized the email, sat up straight.
Yeah.
I called. Ethan peeked in, his hair a total mess, rubbing one eye like he'd just woken from something bad. You still up? He asked.
Yeah, buddy.
Everything okay? I couldn't sleep, he muttered. I heard talking downstairs. I blinked. What kind of talking? He hesitated. I think Mom was on the phone. I was getting water, and I heard her say something about a guy named David. She said, "He has no idea." A chill moved through me like ice water. You're sure? Ethan nodded. Pretty sure. I gave him the calmest smile I could manage. Thanks for telling me, bud. Go ahead and try to sleep, okay? He nodded but lingered at the door for a second before quietly closing it behind him. As soon as it latched, my smile vanished. I clenched my fists so tight I thought I might break my own fingers. She wasn't even hiding anymore. She was just assuming I wouldn't do anything. She thought I'd play my role, quiet, harmless, half asleep. But I wasn't that man anymore. I opened the drawer beneath my desk, pulled out the portable flash drive I kept for emergencies. I moved quickly, copying everything, emails, messages, screenshots. I wasn't being paranoid anymore. I was protecting myself. Then I crossed the room and cracked the curtain just enough to peek outside. A few houses down, a motion sensor light kicked on. A car had pulled onto our street, dark sedan, windows tinted darker than legal. It slowed right in front of our house. It didn't stop. It just hovered for a moment. Then drifted on, quiet as a shadow. I stayed there, frozen, watching. Waiting. Nothing. I closed the curtain and powered down the computer. The hallway smelled faintly of lavender. Megan's diffuser working overtime. I moved slowly down the hallway. The bedroom door was cracked open, spilling a stripe of golden light across the floor. She was in bed, sitting upright with her glasses on, reading some paperback like everything was normal. She looked up. You coming to bed? She asked, her voice easy. Warm. Unbothered. In a minute, I replied. She smiled. Like this was just another ordinary night in our marriage. Like she hadn't whispered, "He has no idea," to some man who was waiting in the shadows. I walked away before she could see the look in my eyes. She thought I was still in the dark. But I was wide awake. And I was done pretending. Right before the rage had a chance to rise up and choke me, I turned away. I couldn't let it show, not yet. Megan still thought I was clueless. Still thought I was in the dark. But the lights had come on for me, and I was seeing everything. It was just after midnight when I stepped out onto the back patio. The air had cooled down to something sharp and clean, with a whiff of pine and maybe rain somewhere far off. The moon hung low and round, casting a silver sheen over the yard. From inside, the dishwasher was humming, a low, steady pulse, like a heartbeat in a quiet room. I stood there, not moving, hands shoved deep in my pockets. My thumb kept brushing against the flash drive I'd tucked into the lining of my jacket. I had evidence now. Real, solid proof. Emails, forged documents, a fake signature. I had enough to see the shape of what she was doing. And still, I hadn't said a word to her. No fight. No dramatic reveal. Not yet. She wanted this to be a game of chess. Fine. But I wasn't the pawn anymore. From where I stood, I could see the edge of our neighbor's garage across the fence. That jogged a memory. Tom, the guy next door, had installed a security camera last year after some break-ins. I'd even helped him set it up, making sure it caught the alley and a bit of the street. I went back inside, walked through the dark kitchen, and grabbed my phone. 2 minutes later, I was calling Tom. "Hey," I whispered. "Sorry if I woke you." His voice came through groggy but friendly. "Nah, I was just watching one of those cooking shows and dozed off." "What's going on?" "I need a favor," I said. "There was a car parked out front earlier, around 11:30. Thought maybe your camera might have caught something." He was quiet for a beat. "Yeah, I can check." We hung up, and I started pacing tight loops around the kitchen. 5 minutes. 7. Then my phone buzzed. Tom had texted. "Silver Ultima. Tinted windows. No plates. Sat there 4 minutes. Someone got out, walked toward your gate. Didn't knock. Just stood there. Left 2 minutes later. Creepy as hell. Want me to send the clip?" My hands went cold again. Someone had come to my house. Not to talk. Not to drop something off. Just to wait. I texted back, "Yes. Send everything." A moment later, the video came through. Grainy, low-res night footage, but it was enough. A silver car. Medium-build guy in a baseball cap. He didn't walk to the front door. He didn't even try to be seen. He just stood there near the side gate, still as stone, like he was listening. Like he was waiting for something. That was it. That was the final piece. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being watched. I saved the video, encrypted it, and backed it up to a second drive I kept hidden in the attic behind the insulation. Then I opened my laptop again. This time, I wasn't looking for answers. I was planning the next move. I searched aliases. How to trace forged documents. Underground financial consulting. Anything that could help me follow the money deeper without tipping her off. And then I did something bold. I opened an incognito browser window and created a brand new email under a fake name, catherine.thomas.secret@protonmail.com. I wrote the message carefully, mimicking her tone, making it sound like I was her. To dc.consulting@protonmail.com. Subject, change of plans. Body, we have a complication. He's asking questions. Got spooked earlier. Almost caught me. Let's meet tomorrow. Noon. Same park. No devices. I hit send. The bait was set. Now I just had to wait and see if David, her David, would bite. I wasn't planning to confront him. Not yet. I just wanted to know who he was. What kind of man gets involved in something like this? Megan had laid her trap with precision. But it was my turn now. Upstairs, I heard the pipes rattle, the bathroom. She was moving. I shut the laptop and quietly climbed the stairs. She was brushing her teeth in front of the mirror when I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Her reflection looked calm, completely untouched. Not a hair out of place. "Everything okay?" she asked, still holding her toothbrush. "Yeah," I said. "Just couldn't sleep." She smiled. "Maybe it's the trip. I've been looking forward to this for weeks." I nodded, then casually added, "Hey, do you know someone named David?" She didn't even blink. She rinsed her mouth, turned toward me with a towel in her hand, and said, "David? That's pretty vague. I knew a David back in college." I gave a small shrug and forced a grin. "Right. Just thought I heard the name earlier." She brushed past me, soft as always, her touch as familiar as ever. "Must have been your imagination," she said with a chuckle and disappeared into the bedroom. I stood there, staring at the empty hallway, my pulse thudding in my ears. She hadn't flinched. Not even for a second. But no mask stays perfect forever. Not once the lights come on and the person behind it starts watching back. The next morning rolled in golden and quiet. Sunlight spilled through the blinds in crooked stripes. Birds were chirping somewhere outside, and a lawnmower buzzed faintly in the distance. To the world, everything looked calm. But inside our house, something had already broken. I laid there staring at the ceiling, wide awake. I hadn't slept. Not since seeing that man in the security footage. Not since pretending to be my own wife in an email sent to her lover. Megan was still asleep beside me. She stirred a little, sighed softly, then rolled over to face the wall, her hair spilling across the pillow like dark ink in slow motion. I watched her for a second. Not with love. Not even hate. Just the kind of curiosity you feel when you realize you've been living with a stranger. Watching her sleep had become a weird ritual for me. Not in a romantic way. More like trying to understand a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Every breath, every little shift under the covers. All of it used to feel intimate. Familiar. Now it felt staged. Like I was sharing a bed with someone performing a role. I slipped out of bed quietly, moving the way you do when you're afraid to wake something dangerous. Ethan's bedroom door was cracked open. Inside, he sat cross-legged on his bed, sketching in a notebook, headphones around his neck. I leaned on the doorframe. "Morning," I said softly. He looked up, surprised.
Oh, hey.
"You're up early. Couldn't sleep." He nodded like that made perfect sense.
Yeah.
Me neither. Had weird dreams. I walked in a little. "What kind?" He shrugged. "Don't know. Just this weird feeling. Like people were saying one thing but meant something else. I kept waking up thinking something bad happened, but I couldn't remember what." I sat down at the edge of his bed. Sometimes kids feel things before they can explain them. I tried to sound casual, but every word was heavy. "You think Mom's been acting different lately?" Ethan glanced at me like he already knew where this was going. "You mean how she smiles too much?" That caught me off guard. Too much.
Yeah.
Like, even when nobody says anything funny. Or when you ask her something simple and she laughs like she's in a commercial or something. A chill ran straight through me. "You've noticed that?" He rolled his eyes. "Dad, I'm not 5. I live here too." I ruffled his hair gently. "You're smarter than you let on." He smirked. "Yeah, I know." I stood up. "We're still going on the trip," I said, "but I need you to stick close to me while we're gone. No going off by yourself. No wandering, okay?" His brows pulled together. "Is something wrong?" I hesitated. Then I shook my head. "Not yet." Later that day, Megan suggested we go for a walk. You'd think it was just a family taking a break from packing, parents and a teenager strolling through a sunny neighborhood. Lawns were green, kids zipped past us on scooters, someone down the street had a barbecue going. The air smelled like summer. To anyone watching, we looked perfect. But every word between us felt like a line from a script. She chatted easily about the beach house we'd booked. Talked about the wraparound porch, the cliffs nearby, the cute bookstore she couldn't wait to visit. I nodded where I was supposed to. Smiled on cue. Even laughed once. But all the while, I was watching her. Listening more closely than I ever had before. Measuring the distance between her voice and the truth. As we passed the Miller's place, a couple she'd always been friendly with, I decided to test her. "Hey," I said, glancing at her, "we should invite a few neighbors over. You know, for a little send-off dinner before the trip." She blinked. "Why?" I shrugged. "I mean, you've always said appearances matter, right?" For a split second, something flickered in her expression. A quick recalibration. Then she smiled. "Sure. That could be nice." I clocked the hesitation. Noted the shift in tone. That night, I ran another test. I left a flash drive in my desk drawer. It was completely empty, just bait. I made sure to leave the drawer barely cracked open and left the study light on like I'd forgotten it. Then I stepped outside to water the garden. When I came back 20 minutes later, the drawer was closed, exactly how I'd left it. Except I hadn't. I opened it. The drive was gone. My heart didn't race. Not anymore. I was past that now. I opened the bottom drawer, where I'd hidden a tiny motion sensor I bought days ago, and checked the light. Blinking. Activated. She took the bait. She was watching me, just like I'd suspected. And now she was covering her tracks. Still pretending everything was normal. Still playing the role. Still humming in the kitchen like she wasn't gutting my life one forged signature at a time. I pulled out my phone and opened the security app I'd secretly installed. Tapped the option to activate audio recording in the living room. If she was going to keep spinning her story, I'd catch it, not with drama, not with shouting, but with silence. That night, she kissed me good night like she always had. Warm. Familiar. But I didn't close my eyes. I laid there, still as a rock, counting every breath she took beside me. Because sometimes, storms don't come with lightning or noise. Sometimes, they arrive in perfect silence. And I was ready. The next evening, the stage was set. The sun was dipping behind the trees, casting long shadows across the yard. A breeze pushed the curtains inward through the open French doors. I stood at the grill flipping chicken thighs like everything was fine. But I wasn't hungry. The table was set just how Megan liked it. Linen napkins, little candles, white wine chilling in a bucket. To any outsider, it looked like a calm family dinner before vacation. She came out barefoot, holding a salad. "Smells amazing," she said, her voice smooth, low. "You could have been a chef in another life." I gave her a small smile. "Maybe in the next one." She laughed, either missing the edge in my voice or pretending to. Ethan was already at the table, one earbud out. He poked at some olives, his foot tapping a fast rhythm under the table. He wasn't fully part of the conversation, but he was listening. I knew that. We sat down. The cicadas outside hummed like background music. Megan raised her glass. "To us," she said brightly. I lifted mine. "To family." We drank. Dinner was slow. Careful. She carried most of the talking, telling old stories, one about our honeymoon, another about Ethan falling asleep in a laundry basket during a storm. I added comments where I was supposed to. Laughed when I should have. It was almost too easy, this performance we were putting on. But that was the point. About halfway through dinner, Megan excused herself to go inside and grab dessert. The moment she disappeared through the door, I turned to Ethan. "You doing okay?" I asked. He gave a little shrug. "Yeah, just feels weird tonight." I nodded. "I get that. When we head out on this trip, I want you to stay close, all right? Don't wander off. Just trust me." Ethan gave me a long look, more grown-up than I expected, then nodded silently. Megan came back a few minutes later, carrying a tray of shortcakes and a bowl of peaches. Her movements were smooth, careful, like a performance she'd rehearsed. "I know I said I wouldn't bring up work this week," she said cheerfully, "but one of my clients emailed today. Looks like one of my logo designs might get featured in a magazine." "Can you believe that?" I looked at her, really looked. The way she smiled, how her fingers tightened just a little around the serving fork while she waited for my response. "That's incredible," I said quietly. "You're really talented." She blinked once, smiled again, but it didn't touch her eyes. After dessert, I stood from the table. "I've got a surprise," I said. "Be right back." I walked calmly into the house and down the hall to my office. On the desk sat a small remote control. The audio recorder had been running for days, but tonight was when I needed it. I returned to the patio, tucked the remote in my palm, and stood beside the wall where I'd hidden a small speaker. I clicked the button. The garden lights dimmed. A low crackle. And then, her voice, clear and undeniable, echoed across the patio. "He doesn't even ask questions anymore." I thought he'd resist more, but honestly, he's still that same man. Predictable. Quiet. Just invisible enough to erase. Megan froze. The speaker crackled again. "Once he signs, we go. He won't even know he's lost everything until it's done." Ethan's head snapped up. His mouth parted slightly as his eyes bounced between us. I turned to her. "Your voice," I said softly. "Or should I call you Catherine?" She didn't move. One hand hovered over her wine glass. Her face was frozen, breathless, like something had broken inside her. "What is this?" she asked, trying to laugh. But her voice wobbled. "You were careful," I said, stepping closer. "I'll give you that. You studied me, played your part, built this lie slowly, beautifully. But you forgot one thing." I leaned in, my voice barely more than a whisper. I was listening. Her lip trembled. One blink too long. Just a second of hesitation. Ethan stood abruptly, his chair scraping across the deck.
Mom.
She didn't answer. Her eyes locked on me now. Calculating. Silent. She was deciding, deny, run, fight? I stepped forward again until we were nearly face to face. I know about the emails, I said, voice low. The forged signature. The bank transfers. I know about David. Everything went still. Even the cicadas outside seemed to pause. Megan's lips parted like she might speak, but nothing came out. I turned to Ethan. Go inside, son. He didn't move at first. But then, reluctantly, he stepped back and disappeared through the French doors. When I looked back at her, something had cracked. I didn't want it to happen like this, she said. That's the thing about lies, I replied, shaking my head. You don't get to choose how they end. She looked stunned, like someone watching their own painting melt off the canvas. I pulled a small envelope from my pocket and placed it on the table between us. This is everything, I said. Copies, logs, messages. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. You were going to erase me, I whispered. But I wrote myself back in. We stood there, just two people who once promised each other forever. Now we were on opposite sides of a truth we couldn't avoid. And neither of us could look away. She still hadn't touched the envelope. Her eyes, once so sharp and in control, flicked back and forth like she was searching for a way out. I didn't feel hate. I wasn't even angry. Just clear. This isn't what you think, she finally said. Her voice was brittle, thin. You're jumping to conclusions. I can explain. I tilted my head. Oh yeah. Which part do you want to explain? The fake name, the second husband, or the fact that I was about to vanish from my own life without even realizing it? She flinched. I didn't. Michael, listen to me. David, he wasn't. She stopped. Tried again. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You weren't supposed to get hurt. I let out a small, humorless laugh. So forging my signature was just... what? Kindness. She didn't answer. I traced the money, I continued. Every transfer. Found the alternate account with your maiden name on it. Found the draft of the power of attorney. You had it all lined up. You played this like a pro. Almost perfect. Her eyes met mine, still defiant. You made one mistake, I said. What? She asked quietly. You underestimated the man you married. The patio lights flickered in the wind. The garden was hushed, still. Behind the glass, I caught a glimpse of Ethan standing in the living room, a silhouette watching silently. I'd told him to stay inside, but he was smart. He knew this wasn't just any argument. Megan, Catherine, whatever part of her was still real, she deflated slightly. Her shoulders sagged. That perfect wife persona she'd worn like armor. It was breaking. I did what I had to do, she said finally. Her tone shifting, sharper now. You were drifting. Distant. Always buried in work. You made it easy. I didn't flinch. So that's your story? I was so forgettable, so mild, that I deserved to be deleted. She stepped back, voice rising, not frantic, but fierce. I rebuilt this family. I gave you something that looked like a life. All you had to do was stay quiet. She stared at me, eyes narrowed with cold defiance, and said, You don't even realize how easy you were to replace. The words didn't sting. Not anymore. In fact, it was probably the first honest thing she'd said to me all night. I leaned in just slightly, my voice barely above a whisper. Then why, I said, are your hands shaking? Megan looked down without realizing she had. Her fingers, still resting near the envelope, were trembling. I straightened up and spoke the truth I'd been holding. Everyone's going to know. About Catherine Carter. About David. About everything you did to cut me out of my own life. She stared at me, voice quiet but sharp. You won't go through with it. You couldn't survive the blowback either. I raised a brow. Try me. From the darkness beyond our hedges, shapes began to shift. Neighbors. One by one, they stepped forward into the patio light. Tom and his wife, Mrs. Redford from across the street, even the quiet couple next door. I'd invited them earlier that afternoon with a single message. Come by at 8. There's something I want you to hear. They'd stood silently in the yard, hidden by trees and fences. And now they were watching the final act unfold. Megan's face paled when she saw them. It had taken her years to build this life, the friendly neighborhood designer, the perfect mom, the wife with the holiday wreaths and Pinterest-level dinner parties. All of it a performance. All of it a lie. And now it was unraveling. Fast. You, she started, but the words collapsed before they could take shape. I didn't gloat. I didn't lash out. No one's calling the police, I said quietly. And I'm not dragging you into court. This isn't about revenge. This is about truth. I stepped back, voice steady. I want you out. The silence settled around us like fog. Heavy. Still. She looked to the neighbors, as if searching for backup, but their faces were unreadable. Shocked. Dismayed. Even angry. I nodded toward the side gate. Take what's yours. A bag, a box, that's all. The separation papers are already filed. She turned toward me sharply, trying to recover control. You really think this is over? I didn't flinch. For me, it is. She scanned the yard again, maybe hoping for someone to defend her, but no one moved. Not even Ethan, who stood just inside the French doors, shadowed by the porch light. And then, without another word, Megan, Catherine, whatever was left of her, lifted her chin, straightened her spine, and walked out of the yard. No suitcase. No dramatic exit. No last plea. Only silence. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. My shoulders finally dropped. The illusion had ended. The truth had made it through. The wind off the Pacific hit different now, cooler, sharper, like it carried a kind of cleansing with it. I stood on the porch of the beach house, a mug of black coffee in hand, staring out at the ocean. It moved with a kind of quiet power. Endless, unhurried. Ethan sat a few feet away in a striped chair, bundled in a hoodie, sketchbook resting on his knees. He was drawing something in silence. I didn't ask what, it didn't matter. Some things are meant to stay untouched until the person holding them is ready to let them go. It had been 2 days since we arrived. Just the two of us. No lies packed in the trunk. No secrets between the lines. Only the quiet work of starting over. The drive had been long, mostly silent, save for the radio and a few light comments about weather or snacks. But it hadn't felt awkward. It felt clean. Now the salt air filled my lungs, and the cry of gulls rose above the sound of the tide rolling in. The world felt distant, not gone, but far enough away that it no longer pressed on my chest. Inside, the house was still mostly unpacked. The beds were only half made. I hadn't checked email. Didn't plan to. Whatever waited for me back home could keep waiting. Then Ethan spoke, his voice soft and sudden. Do you think she'll come back? I didn't answer right away. I think, I said slowly, she already left a long time ago. She just didn't tell us. He didn't look up, just nodded and kept drawing. He hadn't cried. Not once. Not even when she walked out that night. But I knew grief doesn't always come with tears. Sometimes, it sits behind the eyes, quietly rewriting everything you thought you understood about love and family. I'd grieved, too. Not the marriage, that had died quietly over time, like a house where the lights go out one room at a time. What I really grieved was the version of me who thought love alone was enough. A gust of wind lifted the edge of Ethan's sketchbook, and I caught a glimpse. He wasn't doodling. It was a house. Small. Worn. Wild grass growing around it. Off in the distance, endless ocean. And on the porch, a tiny figure holding a mug. Hey, I said, voice catching a little. You're good at that. He shrugged. It's just shapes. No, I replied. It's something more. We fell back into silence, but it was full now, not empty. Later, as the sky began to bloom with orange and rose, I walked down to the shore. I carried just one thing, a small object wrapped in a handkerchief, tucked into my jacket. When I reached the water, I knelt, unfolded the cloth, and looked down. There it was. Her other passport. The name, Catherine Elise Carter. The face of someone I used to know. I stared at it for a long moment. The pages fluttered in the wind, almost like they were breathing. Then I let it go. Tossed it into the surf. The tide caught it. Pulled it in. Swallowed it whole. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just turned around and walked back toward the house. To my son. To whatever came next. Behind me, the ocean kept its secrets. But I carried no more of them. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.